Hey, what's up? Jimmy Smith. I'm back. This time, not to talk about anything specific to the fight on Saturday to UFC 249, but to answer a question that has been posed to me both online and in real life a lot over the last couple weeks, which is, can the UFC and has the UFC made some kind of agreement with the fighters that they won't reveal if they get COVID at the event? The short answer is no. And I will break down each little part of it and explain why the answer is no. First off, when it was going to happen, it was supposed to happen at Tachi Palace. Some people wrote me online and said, couldn't they sign some kind of waiver that they won't sign, that absolves the UFC of all their responsibilities should they get sick? No. For people who haven't seen previous videos, I've been working for a law firm in 2019 doing paperwork and stuff, and they do personal injury. So I've learned a ton about this subject. And one of the things is there's no contract that gives someone else blanket immunity. It doesn't work that way. Every time there's a transaction or a relationship business-wise, one party has responsibility, the other party has responsibility. If you violate those responsibilities, you can be sued. No contract can protect you from that. Meaning, if you go skydiving and you sign a waiver, all that waiver does is protect them from anything that would happen as a normal consequence of skydiving. If on the way down you freak out and have a panic attack, you can't sue them for that. If you twist your ankle because you land kind of funny, that's a normal consequence of skydiving. You can't sue them for that. If your chute is packed incorrectly by the people who are supposed to pack it, that's negligence and they are going to get sued. If the pilot is drunk or high and crashes the plane, your survivors, your estate, will sue them for everything they own. It's their job to make sure the pack is packed correctly, the pilot is competent, the people instructing you are competent. If they violate any of those, no contract's going to save them. That's negligence. So now, where negligence lies in a time of pandemic, right, what the UFC's responsibilities are up in the air. It's kind of an unprecedented situation. But no contract could protect them from everything. It doesn't work that way. So first off, there's no blanket immunity statement they could sign, okay? Another thing you have to keep in mind is any effort to keep the fighters or the talent or production or anything like that from revealing the fact that they got COVID would be a PR and legal disaster for the UFC. If it came out that they were trying to do this, it would be an unmitigated disaster. ESPN would freak out. Disney would freak out. The media would freak out. They'd be in a lot of legal hot water because commissions are supposed to keep track of fighter health and make sure they're okay. To tell them you can't talk about this would be a nightmare. So they would have to do this in complete secrecy. How could you do it in complete secrecy? Even fighters on the undercard, the first one you've seen, the guys who don't have much career, have some representation. They usually have some manager or attorney at least looking over contracts for them. So you couldn't get them to sign some kind of agreement without involving their manager, their representation, their attorney. You couldn't do that. You couldn't just make them sign it by themselves in the dark. Okay, you couldn't make it only the UFC and the fighter know about this. The fighter's going to show it to their manager or their attorney and say, hey, look at this. The attorney's going to know, A, it's unenforceable. No judge would enforce that in a million years. And B, it would leak. It would leak. If we'd all know about it right now. If they had tried to get fighters to sign some kind of agreement saying you won't tell anybody if you get COVID from our event or you get COVID, period, we'd all know about it. Ali Abdelaziz is Justin Gaethje's manager. This would be like handing him a loaded gun that he could use against UFC anytime he wanted. It would be suicide. They would not do that. And no fighter is going to, when you have the UFC just mail it to him personally or go to their house and hand it to him, they're going to turn around and hand it to their manager and go, look at this. Well, we'd all get a copy of it. That manager would email that to somebody and it would be everywhere. And once again, a PR disaster for the UFC. So you couldn't get them to sign it secretly by themselves in a dark room. Every fighter would have it looked at first, and then that would spread, and they'd tell something, and we'd all know about it. Things leak too easily in this day and age. So, and even if they were signed that contract, you can make, or not make, but you can encourage somebody or get somebody to sign anything. It wouldn't be legally enforceable. You cannot make somebody stay quiet about their own health issue. Their own health information. They have every right to tell somebody they have cancer, they have COVID, they have this, they have that. You couldn't prevent them from doing that. You could prevent them from saying they got it at the event because, you could say you can't prove you got it at the event. That's defamation, da, da, da. But you couldn't prevent a fighter from saying 10 days after the UFC and I have COVID. You could not prevent them legally from saying that. So even if you got them to somehow sign that contract, it wouldn't hold up. You couldn't sue them. It would never hold up in court in a million years. And it would leak that they did it, and the UFC would be really screwed. So, could there be some kind of handshake, non-contract agreement? Okay, Dana White, and by the way, Dana White would have to do this to every single fighter on this card, the next 3 cards, right, which are next week. There's okay. The idea that you would tell all the fighters on every card the same information and nobody would leak it is insane. But let's just say, for argument's sake, Dana White individually called every single fighter and went, look, if you get sick, keep it to yourself and we'll take care of you. Just don't say anything about it. There's no way any of these fighters, first off, you wouldn't, if you got a cold, you got mild symptoms, you probably wouldn't seek any help anyway. So we're talking about people that ended up needing help. There's no way Dominic Cruz, Henry Cejudo, any of these guys check into a hospital with COVID symptoms and it doesn't leak. There's no way. You can't just disappear for 2 weeks and stay in bed and no one knows about it, right? There's no way that I'm going to keep this handshake deal and not tell anybody. Sure, I guess you could, but at the end of the day, if you sought any medical care of substance for COVID, it would leak. You could, Dominic Cruz cannot check into a hospital with COVID symptoms and it would stay quiet. Could not happen. So this whole, maybe there's some kind of handshake deal. Well, once again, God forbid that come out. It would look horrible. And the problem with any kind of handshake deal like that is the implication that if you violate it, you're not going to fight first. There has to be some kind of leverage on one side of it. There has to be an implied understanding that if you did, there'd be some kind of consequence. That would be horrific. You could not do that, right? Legal hot water for the UFC. Big time. Big time. So even the whole, some kind of one-on-one handshake, that would leak. Someone would talk about that by this point. There are just too many fighters involved for all of them to have a secret deal to not say anything. B, if they sought out medical care, which if you got bad enough, you'd have to, there's no way that stays quiet. And the UFC has no way of enforcing anything like this. There are whistleblower laws that would protect somebody from any kind of threat about, if a fighter reveals that they have COVID, they're not fighting for us again. If that came out, screwed. But for the commissions, they're screwed. Publicly, they're screwed. Disney and ESPN would be furious. You just couldn't get away. It's not worth the cost. Even a fighter coming out and they get COVID and it's somehow linked to the event. As bad as that would be, it would be much worse for the UFC to get caught trying to hush it up. It wouldn't be worth that. The UFC can come out and say, all right, somebody got sick in an event, we're going to take care of them, da-da-da-da. They would play the other angle. If they tried to shut people up, it would publicly be so much worse that it wouldn't be worth it for the UFC. It would be the worst PR possible. That not only did someone get sick, but they tried to muscle that person into being quiet. Dana White's not a bad businessman. You have to remember that, yes, he's able to kind of like bluster his way through a lot of problems, and he's always, the guy at the front taking all the bullets, but he knows how disastrous it would be for his business to get caught hushing up a fighter getting sick because of one of these events. It makes much more sense to say, don't worry, we'll take care of all the bills. We're going to make this thing right. Whether he can or can't, the idea that we're going to take care of this is the smarter way to go. So for all of those reasons, I don't think anything like that's happening. A fighter might feel pressured to not reveal something because for fear that the UFC wouldn't use them or they would somehow upset somebody. Sure, that might be the case. But on their end, if the UFC made any effort to explicitly or implicitly keep fighters from revealing the fact that they got corona anywhere near an event, would backfire horribly. And I don't think they're dumb enough to do that. So that's my answer to that. And I'll see you guys post-fight. It's a busy week, and hope you guys are enjoying it.